circumstance that surrounded my birth and early childhood was a clear indication that my life would not be a normal one. I was born to a single mother who lived in Kibera at the time of my birth, and she had just been abandoned by her then boyfriend, my father. And at that particular time, my mother could not fend for me, and so she had to take me to my grandparents, who took care of me from the early age of 3 months to the time I was 8 years, when I then joined my mother's family. At that time, she had been remarried. So life was difficult back at home. I remember life came with its challenges when I was living with my mom, and I remember we'd survive on a small-scale kerosene business and small-scale farming to survive as a family, and that is what took me through primary school. My family, knowing that these were the circumstances back at home, always encouraged myself and my siblings to work hard, because education was the only gift they could give us. So my parents always insisted and told us that, we have to work hard to create a future for ourselves. Well, I managed to work hard and secured myself a position at the prestigious Loreto Limuru High School. After struggling with poverty back at home, and with the motivation that is all my parents had given me, I worked hard and managed to get a position at Loreto Limuru High School. I always say that my life took a turn when I joined Loreto Limuru High School, because at that time my father came back to my life and he promised he would pay my school fees. And so for me, I was excited, and I hoped that now I would be able to achieve my dreams, the dreams of having an education, the dreams of having a better future, given the situation back at home. So he came into my life, and the joy lasted just for I think it was just for 2 terms, after which he denounced his association with me and declared that he was not my father and that I was not his daughter because of the poor grades that I was getting back in school. I remember for me, this was one of the most traumatizing events that I have ever experienced in my life, and one that has come to shape the person that I am today. Because when he actually kicked me out. He told me, pack your things and leave. You're not my daughter and I'm not your father. So at that time, I had to make a choice. I was only 16 in Form 2, not knowing what life had for me in the future, looking back at my family and wondering that, I remember telling myself that if I thought my mother would help me, this is where this is what life looked like for them. And if I thought that my father would help me, he had just kicked me out. And at that point, I had a choice to make. And I remember, I had a choice to make, to either decide whether this circumstance of being kicked out and being told I would amount to nothing would define my life, or choosing to pursue my dreams and work hard and achieve what I wanted to achieve. I had always wanted to pursue law from the time I was very young. So the year after being kicked out, I was only in Form 2, so the year that followed my Form 2 experience was a very tough year for me, because I remember I would constantly be in and out of school, in and out of class. In fact, when we knew or when we had information that the next day we would be kicked out of school for school fees, I would just carry my bag that morning, knowing that I would go home the next day. I would go home when the names were read for guys who had not finished paying, or other people who had school fee balances. So for me, I continued and said, I'm going to work hard and I'm going to have a future for myself, that I will work hard regardless of the situation at that particular time. And I worked hard. When I got to Form 4, things got even worse. And I remember that time making the decision, taking the bold step of approaching my high school principal and speaking to her about my situation. I went to her. My high school principal at that time was a Kikuyu. And there was this narrative that kept on going around school that she only favored, people from her tribe. So I took the bold step and I told myself, what, I'm going to give it a try. So I went to her office one day, and I remember telling her, striking a deal with her and telling her, you allow me to stay in school without paying school fees, and in return, I promise that I will not get anything less than an A-. At that time, never mind that I was getting a C- with an outstanding Daudim Salabas in my mathematics and, sciences. For those of you who know, Daudim Salaba is D+. Yes. So I remember her looking at me and wondering, are you really serious? And she knew me at that time because I was quite popular in school, very outgoing, attending music festivals, doing public speeches in school. And so she asked me, are you RUTH AMBOGO? I'm like, yes, I am. And she's like, and you're telling me you want to get an A-. that I should allow you to stay in school without paying your school fees and you will get an A-. I'm like, yes. Are you the same one who got a C- in your last examinations? I'm like, yes. So she looked at me for like 3 minutes and she says, are you sure you're going to get that C-? I tell her, yes, I will. At that time, I did not know whether I had a chance or whether she would, because I had heard so much from people. I had actually been discouraged by a lot of my classmates, some of my friends that I shared, the decision I was going to make with. So she looked at me for 3 minutes, of course, wondering if I was serious, and eventually told me, look, if you're serious that you're going to get a C-, if you're serious that you're going to get an A-, then you can go ahead, go to class and study. So there I went, worked really hard. I had only less than 8 months to prove that I could get an A-, so that my promise to her would actually be fulfilled. And surprisingly, 8 months later, I actually got the A-, to the surprise of also my parents. My parents did not expect me to get an A-. In fact, I remember one time my mother telling family and friends that, before my examinations, she called for a family meeting and, pastors were invited. And her simple prayer to God was that, God, if you love this girl, just give her a B-. So I managed to get the A-. And right after getting this A-, my mom started asking me, so how are you going to go to campus? Yes, you have passed, yes, you have performed well, but how will you go to campus? And we were all wondering, but I had the faith and I kept on telling her that the same way that I went through high school and nobody expected me to finish is the same way I will go to university. And I started walking around, trying to raise my school fees, trying to get jobs, trying to get teaching jobs in schools in Kawangware. I remember I taught at some point in a school in Mukurupanjenga, all with an aim of trying to raise school fees before, my admission to university. So when the time for admission to university came, I missed out on law school by 0.1 in all universities. So I remember the day when I was going to, to reapply for my university application. I remember applying all the 4 choices, applying at Moi University for all the 4 choices. But then I had the faith, and in fact, before I submitted the form, I remember making a prayer and telling God, that God, 1, I am not going to Moi. 2, I am not leaving Nairobi. 3, I am doing law. And I just had this faith that I would pursue the course that I had always wanted to pursue. And at some point, I almost lost hope. And I remember the day that I had just decided that this was it. This was the end of the road. That particular day, the next day when I woke up, I received a phone call from a number I didn't know. And the lady introduces herself and says she's the secretary of Loreto Limuru and that the principal wanted to talk to me. So I pick up the phone and the principal, all excited, the same principal, very excited. Ruth, you got an A-, right? I'm like, yes. And you really wanted to do law, yeah? And I tell her yes. So she tells me, now there's an opportunity at Strathmore. They're looking for, a bright student from a needy background, and they would like to sponsor them for law. And just like that, I got myself to Strathmore Law School to pursue a course I had always wanted to pursue. And for me, the reason why I wanted to pursue law is because I grew up in a society where I witnessed injustice going on. I could witness, mothers and widows being denied property. I grew up in Nyanza, and there was a lot of injustice going on. And I personally, I personally experienced it when my father, kicked me out. And at Form 3, I remember one particular time actually going to FIDA, trying to sue my father for upkeep. And I succeeded because I think my school fees was paid for 1 term. And so I had always had this, in me. I had always wanted to go out there and get to do a course that would put me in a position to be able to defend as many people as possible. So when I got to Strathmore, my leadership journey began. Because for me, Strathmore was a dream camp. When I got to Strathmore, I remember I was assisted by a project that had been started by students. So students would fundraise to assist fellow students who were unable to pay school fees. So they would come together and give as little as 50 shillings towards assisting students from needy backgrounds. I needed to pay 5,000 shillings for my CASNEB examination registration because I started with CPA before joining law school. And I could not raise that 5,000 shillings. So they came together and assisted me. And I think for me, that's where my passion to give back and to assist fellow students just came up. Because I realized if I was in that position, how many more young people were in that position of not being able to achieve their dreams was because of a simple 5,000 shillings, 10,000 shillings, 20,000 shillings. So I began volunteering. And before I knew it, my track record and the work that I had done earned me a position at the student council. So I got voted in at the student council by the time I was in first year. And through the student council, we came together with fellow students, the staff members at Strathmore, and we managed to raise lots of money. We were able to educate over 30 students in my 1 year of tenure, at the student council. We were able to assist over 30 students with bursaries and scholarships through education strategy. And then this dream of wanting to give back and give these similar opportunities to my fellow young people drove me to move beyond the Strathmore Student Council leadership, and I found myself engaging with youth organizations, with a lot of young people, because I would go around schools and universities, offering motivational talks and encouraging young people through my story. And out of that, we managed to inspire so many people. I managed to gather as many young people as possible, started my own organization, Young Kenyan Women Leaders, through which we are now nurturing young women into leadership positions and just shaping their character, shaping their values, teaching them values and teaching them leadership from our own experience as young people and through the experience and eyes of other people who've gone ahead of us and who've made it in life as leaders. And this is what brings me to the point of talking about the Kenya that I believe the youth want. After having interacted with as many youth as possible and having engaged with many of them through organizations and even through media, I have come to the conclusion, or rather I believe as a young person, that we young people deserve a Kenya that would give us an opportunity to become anything and to become, to achieve the deepest of the dreams that we have as young people. It's very sad to realize that only 39% of Kenyans have achieved post-secondary school education. Most of them are people who have qualified, young people who come from humble backgrounds, young people who have worse stories than mine, young people who are being married off at an early age and therefore missing out on the opportunity to become anything that they would want to become. And I believe as youth, that is what we desire to have as young people. We desire to have a Kenya that sees us, that defines, that does not define a youth by their ability to get, what are they called, the youth fund opportunities, because I believe that's where we have been reduced to our ability to access the youth fund opportunities. We want jobs. It is so sad that we as young people, and for me, it has been my experience while at campus, it's been my experience that many of us are unable to access jobs. I mean, even simple internship opportunities are hard to come by. So what about the thousands that keep, graduating from our universities each and every other year, going out there without jobs? I believe that as youth, we deserve to have a Kenya with a leadership that places no negative labels on us. A leadership that does not see us as essential and important only when election periods come, like this particular time. A leadership that sees us as essential and is willing to include us in critical policy-making processes, policy that is going to affect our lives as young people. And finally, I believe that we deserve a society with a leadership that has zero tolerance for corruption. Just as the young gentleman said, we deserve a society that has zero tolerance for corruption because we all understand how corruption affects us as a young people. We all understand how it goes into affecting whether we will get jobs or not, whether we will, get placed at the universities that we applied for or not. We have seen the direct and, immediate and far-reaching consequences of corruption as young people. And just to finish up, I believe that we deserve a society that gives us that hope to dream, that gives us the opportunity to dream, the opportunity to hope, the opportunity to want to grow and to, just achieve the best that we can achieve as young people. We deserve a society that is united. I always look back and say that hadn't my high school principal given me the opportunity without looking at where I came from, I wonder whether I'd be here today. And so for me, those are some of my thoughts about the kind of Kenya we deserve as young people.